Perfect. Okay, thank you and welcome everybody. This Scrutiny Committee meeting has been conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Act 2021, which will operate alongside the Council's standing orders. The Council's standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. I remind members this meeting has been live streamed to the public. Please can those attending switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you're not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise. Can I also remind members to ensure the chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when you speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on. A recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Whilst translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request, the images and sound recording may be also used for training and monitoring purposes. First agenda item is apologies. Are you apologies, Neil?
Councillor Alex Pym, Councillor Linton and Councillor Rocher.
Thanks. Any other apologies? Okay. Any declarations of interest? No. Okay. So we'll kick off with the service area and your reports. First one being people, policy and transformation. Yep. We've got a couple of cabinet members. I don't know if you want to introduce and then pass over to officers. I know, as sort of indicated in the preview, I don't get the reports line by line. I'm just looking for a brief overview and then the three. Got three cabinet members, so I don't know whether there's an order of hierarchy here, whether leader wants to go first or somebody else want to introduce. Over to you guys.
Well, shall I just start by saying we've got five? So we've got five cabinet members in our service plan. So we've only got three of the five. Believe it or not, this is a kind of small set. So we've got, if I just explain the responsibilities, we've got Councillor Druitt, who's recently taken over the responsibility for the qualities and communities part of our service plan. Previously, they were with the leader who's got responsibility in our plan for things like performance, digital and intelligence. We've also got Councillor Howells here, who is responsible for assets within our service plan. We also have HR, which is now the deputy leader, and that has some relationships with the qualities, obviously, and communications and culture, which is cool. So to give some context of the responsibilities, but it's in the new responsibility, it's new for all three cabinet members, isn't it? So I don't know if did you want to say anything about your roles?
I'm just taking over, and I'm in the process of learning, but I will do my very best to give all that I can to make this service go forward for the benefit of everyone in Newport.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, same. I'm still sort of quite new to assets, just getting my head around it all and how it works and how we interact with Newport North. But you know, if I can answer questions, I will.
I previously held digital and intelligence, so I think it's central to transformation of the council, and so I've kept all that brief, so I should be able to answer most of your questions.
Thank you.
Sorry, you also Commonwealth's director.
Yeah, so I'll be here for all three. Obviously, all three of the corporate centre services are here today. So yeah, just here to add in support and answer any questions that might be more interaction with the directorate.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Reece. And we've also got Jan Stout, Mark Blazard, Kevin Howells, and Sean Howell, with the main manager for the service. I'll give you a brief overview. I know you want us to keep that brief. It is a very diverse service, so please don't think in the highlights.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be missed if we give the highlights, but really key successes last year with the delivery of the new people plan and a lot of work around employee engagement and some real improvements there. In fact, the team were nominated for an award for our engagement work, and we're really pleased with the engagement of employees with the plan. That's a real highlight for us. Through last year, we engaged on and agreed our new strategic and policies plan, which is really timely for a new cabinet member taking over that role and working with us to take that forwards. And we'll be reporting on that, the old plan, to overview of scrutiny later this year. We've got some successes once again on participatory budgeting. We're really proud of the work we've done with communities, and any funding that we can kind of get our hands on there, we're keen to distribute in that way. It's been really successful. The website, which is something that Scrutiny were challenging on last year, has now become live. Is not fully finished, but is on a linked phase 2 and 3 phase project. Really significant both digital accessibility and communications changes there. So we're pleased about that. And again, new cabinet member will now be taking that forward with us. We report on our digital strategy annually, and that went to a different scrutiny last week, and many digital changes within that, including automation in services to help services work and work more efficiently. And as Councillor Howells has mentioned, we're also in the middle of a really big programme of work to review our property services provision, which was Newport North, and councillors will have seen in the cabinet that there'll be a new provision from April 2026, all being well. And we also have a programme of work to review the council's assets and determine how we can make those more sustainable in the future. I could go on and on. That's probably the big highlights.
Yeah, grateful for that. Thanks, Tracy. Shall I throw open the committee in terms of questions and just to let me know if you want to ask anything? Councillor Rees.
Okay, just thanks for the report, Tracy. In your summary, and also on page 42 of the report, we talk about performance and sickness days. We've got some sickness days due to environmental issues, or well known about. Can you just elaborate more on what you mean by environmental issues?
In brief, and I'll hand over to Karen. We're talking, I guess, about what's going on in the world with lots more people being off and having well-being issues, and the post-COVID era with sickness overall in organisations being I'll start.
That's it. Ultimately, we talk about that externally. There's also the same story that absence is increasing. There's pressure out there in urban environments, essentially. All that's trying to reference.
Okay. I took it a different way.
Literally environment.
Yeah, the issues here.
Yeah, there's lots of mental health issues in all industries, lots of sickness, and so that's probably not brilliantly worded, but we mean in the wider working environment.
Okay.
On the same theme, if I may, so that's gone from 4.75 days mid-year, 11.5 at the end of the year.
Traditionally, absence increases towards the end of the year as we get to the winter months.
Right.
So it's a normal trend that actually mid-year or pre-beginning of the year is quite low, and then it increases towards the end.
Yeah. Councillor Thomas.
On page 13 on page 4.
Sorry, did you say 13?
13 on page 4, the dependent wage certificate in front of me. Next year, this is in the first paragraph, next year our new values and behaviours will allow us to develop our performance management framework further and enhance the check-in experience. And I just wondered if there is a possibility there, an opportunity there for sharing of best practice internally, because it is variable across different departments.
Yes, I mean the committee will know we did a lot of work last year and the year before to get from 23-ish% check-ins up to 67% of the year. So significant increase in engagement and activity around that. The next phase, what that refers to, is actually building a better framework for the organisation to link with, setting good practice, as you say, but also alongside our new people plan that was agreed in Cabinet in January. We've now got our values and behaviours that we expect as an organisation. So now we're able to take those into the performance cycle and what we're trying to model in that process. So absolutely, that guidance is currently with the trade unions being consulted on, and hopefully in the next quarter we'll be in a position to roll it out.
I guess, sorry, if I could just add to that, we don't want to. It's very tricky. We want consistency and good practice, but one size doesn't quite fit all. Also, So you've got different requirements, for example, supervision and social care. You've got people who work at a distance from their managers and events literally in the field of physical learning. So it's about getting that right kind of practice. It's consistent, but doesn't try and put a straight jacket around management abilities as well.
Yeah, because the various rules and the special requirements and demands for each was something which came up last week across the different areas. And we would recognise today as well that finance area seems to have the best key record. Okay.
Yeah, it's a point that did sort of feature quite heavily in the last meeting, and a
Yeah.
number of those service areas probably have some of those challenges that you need to, with people being more remote and out, and performance wasn't great in some of those areas.
Yeah.
Particularly good in your area in finance, probably because the nature of the work you do is haven't got some of those challenges.
But it is good if best practices is going to be shared.
Yeah, it's great to see you guys doing a good job in your teams, but I guess the point is it's also your role to make sure that the other teams are doing that. So how, so Kate's point is well made. How do you share that good practice and make sure the others are, because that well-being conversation, just asking somebody how they are regular, is so important to, to all the work that we do in looking after our people. So,
Yeah,
Just on the wellbeing, the check-in process does have a facility for wellbeing conversation, but there is also a separate wellbeing policy and process that goes with that. So there are other wellbeing check-ins that take place outside the performance check-in as well. So just for awareness there.
Just chair of the front end of this report. There's mention of the assets and the register of assets. Now we've asked over quite some time now if the register of assets was going to be completed, and we were told that it was, and I'm still not aware of where to go and how the access. I think it's and hasn't been completed.
Shall I start there? So we've got a programme of, I think what we've said before is got a programme of work on asset rationalisation, and we've pulled together in chunks. So we're currently working with farmland, that commercial industrial, that's something we're going to there are some published versions of there's a fixed asset list, which I think is already online and so on, but it doesn't really reflect the whole. I think what Scrutiny is interested in is what does the whole of the council's assets look like, which isn't available in that kind of simple format. We lease the properties, we only have fixed assets and so on. So the first part of that was a strategic asset management plan, which as you can see, we've had agreed. That includes a summary of those properties within it, and it kind of depends what the question is for, because there are community assets, there are commercial assets. It's a lot and a complex set.
I think we've been in a position in the past where many as councillors were not actually aware of what was in their area. And certainly, I mean, that applied to me when questions about the disposal of, say, the car park on Hill Street came up, and then it emerged that we really didn't know what city centre. Obviously, I would say this is the most important bit of the whole report, but I didn't know what were council assets there.
That's really helpful actually, because that explains the question better, because it's probably something we could do around mapping for ward councillors to access. And the city centre is, or that's one of the reasons it's more difficult, because the city, if you took the city centre out of the picture, it would be a lot easier.
Yeah, I think we recognise that, but it's just we didn't know what was where.
Yeah, I wonder if we could have a look at something with maps there.
Yeah, what have the potential?
Because in terms of just churning out.
Yeah,
right, it would help you, I don't think.
No, and it's one thing saying, well, it belongs to the council, but if the council just handed it over for 250 years.
That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
really, that needs to be recognised in that as well.
Yeah. And obviously, we have things at Farm Towns that have a very long lease on them, so to all intents and purposes, there are different periods.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, it is a priority of mine, and I've spoken with Village about it as well, that we do get a sort of comprehensive asset list and tenancy schedule, and we've got all the details of who's responsible for what we've got, in written leases, what we don't, where we need to work on it. You know, and that'll all help, because obviously at ward level, you can identify properties that, you know, maybe we've overlooked, that have got really good income generating possibilities, or could really help the community in some way. So, to Tracy will say, it is something we've been talking about that we think is quite an important priority. So we're working on it.
Just to add to that, Councillor Howells and I are committed to giving that list.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, the extension from it is for what we're going to do with those things to maximise them or limit our liability. It follows, but you've got to start somewhere, haven't you, to understand exactly what we get, and then actually how can we use that strength or opportunity or financial position to actually improve the council in the way that we're doing it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
without that list, you don't know where you are. So yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Just on page 18, you see, digital strategy projects. Talk of some people attended a cyber breach workshop. Were there any notable takeaways from that workshop we've been able to implement and further safeguard the system?
Thanks. So I was one of the attendees, along with Mark and some colleagues from legal and elsewhere, civil contingencies. I would say, because obviously we wouldn't expose any cyber weaknesses publicly, I would say it was really, really helpful exercise in reviewing what we have by industry standards, and we were a very, very long way there. We already have some actions in place that we know we need to strengthen, and it, I guess, confirmed those. And there was also a whole portion, I'm going to call it almost training, I can't think of the right term, where we've worked through a pretend real situation where somebody's calling you and the decisions you make. And that was actually useful training for us about how we would recover. So it was sort of 50-50. So there were a few things, but I think they weren't off our radar, but we wouldn't say what they were publicly. Is that fair to say, Mark?
I think so. It was a useful exercise, as Tracy mentioned. We did have a bit of a delay getting some information from the providers of that training, so we've now got that. So there's an analysis of what we can learn and what materials they have. Communication is obviously a big part of it, so the communications team are involved in that process as well. I think we're generally well prepared, but without being complacent. And I suppose that's why there's likely to be another one this year. So again, you can almost never do too much in terms of preparation for those kind of events.
To give you an example, because I'm sort of being a bit opaque about what we learned, one of the key things that came through is the person being the risk, generally speaking. However, the technical controls were super strong in all of that. And in the example they ran, it was a person that did a thing that they shouldn't have done. And of course, and you know, it's a really important reminder to us. It doesn't matter how good your technical controls are. We all individually need to take responsibility. Absolutely, it was a really good reminder of that, and the work we need to do on comms and policies and we knew that, but it's
nice when it's signposted as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, it was evidenced by the Microsoft and CrowdStrike failure. You know, that Snapchat was an individual error.
Yeah.
So we always are mindful of that. It's an ongoing battle. It will never end.
You know, when we had our pre-meeting, we were looking at some of the way in which the reports are presented. Some of them sort of end a bit abruptly. You know, we were talking about there may be reasons why they sort of seem to end in that way, because obviously we were launched into a general election, and it would have been that these reports would have been planned to be presented early in the year, close to the end of the year. But I notice here on page 4 we've got a service area objective and priority for 24-25, and I was just a couple of these, you know, it's a great opportunity really, with things like enhancing and extending management information, reporting and data analytics, and exploiting systems and technology solutions. It would be really nice to know sort of if there was a conclusion reached at the end of some of these points, then what was the next stage? What do you see as the next stage? Where does it go to? If you could add that in a sentence, you don't have to go into a huge range, but it would be really nice to know, you know, what the you know, what our officers' conclusions were when something was completed. Where do we go with it next? Because sometimes it feels very sad, difficult to just have a full stop ending. You know, it just falls off the cliff. Well, I'm sure it doesn't fall off the cliff, but we'd like to know what the next stage is.
I try not to say anything for
Or
everyone, we wish them a bit would, but
Conclusions, you know.
absolutely. So this was written earlier, you're quite right, and we're just about to sign off our following year 24-25 plan, and we'll take everything back from today. So what that could say actually, this arises from this action here, and it's in next year's plan.
Right. That would be good.
Which we will
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
because at that time we haven't started writing the plan, and then we haven't done it, so we can pick that up.
Yeah,
Thank
that point sort of was recurring from last week as well, on this week, so
Yeah.
I think that would be a useful point probably to take back Reece for the other areas as well, if that's okay.
And I can 100% say all of those things will be in next year's plan, they already are, but they weren't at the moment. We can have that.
Sorry.
In similar vein of the actual presentation of books and writing of them, if you take page 33, for example, so promote diversity and inclusion of the various opportunities for Newport City Council. So in your action, you're talking about inclusion, yet in your comments at the end of your summary, we've got 19 over 20 apprentices taken on, which is a brilliant achievement. But we're not talking promoting diversity and inclusion in that. That's just the fact we've taken on through workshops and job fairs, we've taken on 19 out of 20 apprentices. So maybe a look at how the sort of the actions are working with regards to how the outcomes are working as well. This is not just taking on maybe 20 apprentices is great. It's just what we need, but there's nothing there of diversity and inclusion unless we were looking at in terms of the apprentices.
We also know that you've run a load of recruitment events around the city in the last year, and that doesn't feature in the summary of the outcomes.
Yeah, and I know,
Yeah.
I know right now what's happened there. What we've done there is what I'm going to call a quarter 4 update instead of an end of year update. Because we do this quarterly as an internal exercise. But you're quite right to point that out. That could be much more rapid. And we have done fantastic work to further promote diversity, of which getting funding for apprentices is part. But there's loads more. Also, I noticed that it doesn't say, and that will be carried forward in the new year within the new strategic equalities plan. And so that doesn't stop just because we've updated that bit. There's a new piece of work that starts there. And that only stops because I was part of the old.
Yeah.
Plan. Is that fair to say, Jan?
Yeah.
And we've had many years now where we've just been told, well, we can't recruit to that. You know, and we've actually, it's almost been a budget savings, not a strategy, but it's been something we have taken advantage of when we faced the fact that we've had to save money, that we have had positions that we haven't been able to recruit for. But actually, when we got this apprenticeship, I was really pleased about this. I was saying earlier, you know, I've seen the opportunity in this because we've had 2 of those trainees who've joined us. You know, I meet them on the licensing committee. So I mean, it's not reflected in this, but I mean, what you've done is proactively found alternative solutions when you can't recruit externally. We're growing our own, aren't we? Which is great, you know, and that should be reflected in this. That you know that this has been a conscious decision to go down a different route, and it's been successful for us.
Absolutely, and also the idea of, which I say was Ken's idea, I think, using SDF funding for that purpose, and thinking about how we can use that in a more imaginative way, making that bid. Of course, that's not a sustainable model.
No, absolutely, people run out of time.
But it does create that model and create that success that you know we can work on different solutions for.
But within the culture of the council as well, it should be sustainable because it's actually giving that message out that we are a teaching council as well. We're a council that can be joined for professional experience to enhance people's opportunities. Yeah.
There's also an issue about growing our own. You know, local councils across the country are struggling for the right skills, recruiting the right individuals. So a bit like a football academy, really. Why don't we grow our own talent? And I think, you know, Tracy and Kevin are really committed to that, and I'm really proud of the work so far. So hopefully watch the space, we can do more in this area.
Okay.
Councillor Pym, did you want to come in on the point about the digital strategy.
Apologies, Chair. Could you just repeat that last comment?
Yeah, I think you wanted to ask a question around the digital strategy and support for people.
Yes, I was just wondering with regards to the digital strategy, lots of residents over the past 18 months have contacted me saying that they're struggling with the website and certain, the tip run being one of the main booking forms that they've struggled with. Is it possible to put out some tutorials on how to use our online services that residents can access via YouTube as a backup, especially during out of hours? So there's a guide available for how to operate our services effectively. I'm not sure if it's something that we currently do or something we've considered. Lots of businesses offer YouTube short tutorials on whether it could be guides on how to use their equipment or services.
I don't know if Mark wants to come in on anything, but that's something joint between myself and Myrian from a customer services point of view, that customer contact. I wonder if it's something, there's a customer review currently with some outcomes, and I wonder if that's something we fold into.
I can help on that. The website is first phase, and the website is just renewing. We renewed it last year, and it's going to be phase 2 and phase 3. Part of that interlink with our customer services review, which is the forms you're talking about, Councillor Pym. Yeah, we're looking at that now. We know there are issues. We know some people struggle. So we're looking at as part of the review to make it more efficient, more effective, and more user friendly. It's slightly different to the digital, because the digital just focuses on the website per se rather than the interaction piece, but we're on it.
Okay, great. And the other issue would be a troubleshooting page. As that one of the residents at the back of me, he was trying to book a tip appointment on his phone, and he realised that you couldn't get all the boxes in when looking at it in standard portrait. And when he turned the phone on his side, the other boxes become apparent. Again, little things like that. That if there was a troubleshooting page on things to watch out for or look out for when you are using our services, again, it saves that phone call or having to email.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Rees?
Thanks, Chair. Look at page 40, point 4, sort of rebuild the process. So are you talking there about the budget proposal that went through to close the extended 2 days a week? Just wanted an update on sort of how that whole project is going on closing, obviously looking at suitable accommodation elsewhere, and just a bit of an update for the group of where we're at with it.
Okay. So a couple of pieces of work relating to that programme. I'm just conscious this was written before. We've also since agreed that certain reserve funding held for the civic centre can be released. So we've got some maintenance works to start, which is wiser than 2 days a week. We've written to all staff and members you may have seen to say we're starting this work. We are working as kind of a group of us, myself, HR, assets, member services. We are working with managers to survey what their needs are, what their staff needs might be, how many staff do we need to be reasonably accommodating on those days, what are the right days, and so on. And also what might any exceptions be. So there's certain things that can't be moved, physical machines and the like. There's a separate piece of work also for the coroner's court, which is moving to a new location. So there are other kind of pieces moving in readiness for that. Realistically, that doesn't need to start until in anger until October, because that's the heating season, because the saving is entirely around.
Yes.
So we're roughly on track for that. Working through all of the detail, what is at the CLM, the library, what office space is available there, and so on.
Okay. Councillor Thomas.
This is jumping across to this HR question again. Looking at when we lose our staff, I presume that these conduct exit interviews. are there reviews, are the themes which emerge from exit interviews, you know, sort of built into future consideration, are they regularly reviewed and acted on?
Yeah, so we've reviewed the whole process probably about 7 or 8 months ago now.
Right.
To caption that review process. We're still hit and miss with people filling it in. But it's literally an email. Everybody was only put your resignation in, there's an email every day you get fill in your exit interview.
Okay.
Meet with someone if you want to discuss it, etc. So we're at that stage where we're trying to capture that.
But as a default,
more
it would be an online response, would it?
It's an online response, or you can arrange an appointment and discuss it with someone.
Right. I would have thought people may be more willing to share things face to face.
Yeah.
And maybe it needs to be a bit more proactive to encourage people to face. Because if you just don't want to be bothered filling an extra form, then you go for online, wouldn't you? You get to it with less full answers online.
So we do get some take up of it.
Right.
And that information does go back into service areas on the wider whole holistic view of what the issues are, any issues, or actually the pay, is it, you know, relocating, etc. So there's a whole host of different stuff comes out of it, which I think perhaps we can almost mandate.
It's more personal,
but people don't want to
Yeah.
sometimes take part in that.
The opposite, I think, is also true, that some people want to say things
Oh,
plainly,
yes.
you know, more like to put a comment than.
They want it
say-
permanently recorded.
And we take both very
Right.
seriously,
Yeah.
whichever it's received. It's really important for retention
Exactly. If
Um,
you haven't got
purposes.
if you haven't got retention issues, then the recruitment, so it's really
Yeah.
important.
Yes.
Comes to the screen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's my first time on this committee, so I'm still getting up to speed. But one thing I did notice was on elected members training. And there's two things to that. First of all, you know, I think we live in trouble. We live in troubled times.
Comes to the
And I
screen. I
think-
think that's the other service area plan, is it, for law and standards leader?
Yeah, am I on the wrong thing? Am I?
We're on people and policy and transformation at the moment, so I'll
All right.
call
Okay.
you in when we're on the law and standards.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
No problems. Councillor Rees.
You just pick up on page 37. But number 2, if this is right, then extremely well done. Get a start date on the project of October 22. We've got an end completion date of 31st March 2027, and you completed it potentially 3 years ahead of schedule. Great if you have, or is that just the wrong date on that?
It's sort of neither, but I know what's happened here. My copy will be different. So
It's encouraging.
for some of these, so this would have been a timeline that's being carried forward into our new plan. So that the earlier version basically had a date that was crossed out. The earlier date was crossed out. I'm pretty confident. So yeah, so but that got confusing for the public document. So we've completed that part of the work. We now have a new phase going forward, which is in our new plan for next year, which ends on March 2027. I get to say lots of this, but it's a long piece of work, but we have completed the initial phase.
Which is the way it's presented. Then.
I've raised an issue with the previous that there were two dates effectively. There was the original completion date, and then there was the carry on for the next stage of the work. And it was unclear whether you were reporting against the initial completion date or the end one. So Kevin went back and I think it was Kevin went back and changed some of those to be clear. And I think that was just showing the new date. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Not too dissimilar to last week.
Yes.
From there where it was a bit about the good.
Yeah, and I think we talked at length last week about these reports and how we can improve them. It's something that Neil and I have talked about picking up as part of the next meeting after the Highways Asset Management, because I think we'll probably make some specific recommendations about that in terms of so that point we talked about earlier in terms of end of year and what's carrying forward. And it might be that we sort of put an extra column in that makes that a bit clearer on what's.
Is it being carried forward?
Exactly, yeah. So we will certainly probably come with some recommendations after the next meeting.
Yeah.
We've only got one agenda item then, so we'll have a bit more time after that to focus on improving some of this ready for the next one.
And specifically on that, because I don't want to kind of lose credit to Sean's area there, the specific actions, the development of the community wellbeing assessments, the informed by intelligence, that is done. But the bigger action, if you like, on two, that's much bigger. That's much bigger, and we'll carry on year after year, but we'll have different action outcomes to enable that.
Yep, that's great, thanks.
No, but I agree. I think it's important that we are clear what is phased and what targets we're aiming for, what has been hit, what's the next stage for us as well as Scrutiny members. So everyone's clear what has been hit, when it was meant to be hit, and then what we're planning to do next. So, so everyone's not getting confused about what has or hasn't been hit. So I agree with that.
It's that transparency piece, isn't it? So, member of the public picks that up and says, yay or nay. So yeah, we'll certainly make some recommendations on that. And I did invite officers at the last meeting last week. Sort of any suggestions would be welcome, because you guys are in the detail, we're not. So any suggestions that you think, please sort of share them with Neil and the committee, and we'll sort of try and get the process as smooth as we can. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Councillor Thomas?
Yes, thank you. Page 29. The first point there, any particular development in new systems and solutions for utilise benefits of council system assets. What sort of systems? Okay, when I read that, I thought immediately, which I think is absolutely brilliant, the community heating of schools. You know, I don't expect that's what you were thinking of there. It's probably something else, isn't it?
No, we're talking about the council
Digital.
systems, the asset that we own, which is our intelligence and our data. Sean, do you
That's
want
why I wanted to check if what we were talking about. That although in schools, communal heating system would be fabulous and would save an awful lot of money.
Flexible, I don't mind taking
Yeah.
additional stuff on. So no, what we talk about in terms of enhancement and extending functional opportunities is really around the systems that we've got, making sure that where we have opportunities for officers potentially to use mobile app technology, so it improves when they're on the ground, undertaking inspections, they haven't got to write things down, come back, they effectively go out, we develop the apps, we use additional functionality within our transactional HR payroll system, so we're introducing little chatbots, so instead of the old days when you might fill in an old form and ask for annual leave, or you might access the system and ask for annual leave, you can pick up your mobile phone now. You can say to the phone, can I book annual leave? And it will say yes. When would you like to book it? So it's developing those things for staff so they can actually do the jobs a lot more efficiently and effectively. It removes all of the inefficiency once we identify it. We work with our system providers, we look at what the system might be able to do currently, and we try and push it past that stage to make it do things they didn't realise it could do. So it's all about that really, for, not just for the staff, obviously, we do that as well ultimately for the residents. That's, the original focus is our technology, our digital provisions are about staff and external. Yeah, of course it is.
Okay, thank you. Under heating.
And now the heating, made a note.
Any other questions from the committee? I've just got one if I can. I think I might know the answer to it, but the people plan, we've obviously launched it and that's marked as complete. But what you don't want to do is just revisit that when the people plan finishes in 5 years' time. So what sort of plans have we got to make sure we're continuing to sort of embedded work across departments to ensure the things that we want to achieve and the values that we need to part of that are sort of, second nature to everybody.
Thanks, Jen. I'll start and can't do it again. So, you're quite right. Wouldn't that be lovely to do? We've done that now.
Yeah.
We in the list for priorities for 24-25, we will have a new priority about delivering the people plan, and also an integral knit within that is the strategic qualities plan and the kind of diversity of the workforce piece there. And really important that we keep up the momentum and particularly staff engagement work. We've done so well with that, staff really excellent, the engagement and how that interlocks with sickness and attrition and so on as well. Do you want to give any specifics?
Yeah, it is that. So the current new service area plan has those key themes that we picked out of the 4 priorities of the people plan. So we've gone through that exercise of mapping out where our actions need to focus this year. Obviously, the people plan is a 5-year plan, so you know you're going to deliver all that in day, but actually there's the stuff that we need to deliver this year and into next year is about that and will feature in the service plan. I'll be measured through that ultimately.
Very much. Councillor Thomas?
Page 30 or page 21. I believe that we all should be, or the elected members here should, well, actually, I don't myself as well, should be declaring an interest on this one. Life transition of the local government pension scheme. Completed to commissioned paid service improvement, resilience and operational efficiency. What does that mean?
Oh, and I think that's one of yours around the. Do you want to take it?
So that's our current HR payroll system, sending a pension return across to Tourline each month.
Right.
Has been not manual, but a lengthy process. There's much better integration with Tourline systems. It's nice to transition of data across to the pension provider to keep your records up to date and tracking up to date.
Yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Because I believe there, there's probably, if we as members have specific questions about that pension scheme, which is obviously managed by Tourline, who would we go to?
Tourline directly.
Tourline directly.
Then you keep them.
Thank you.
I guess our job is making sure it's as efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
Data exchange.
Okay. All there for questions? I'd like to thank the cabinet members and officers for joining us. You're staying usually, so. Let's go into our comments and recommendations. So we'll need you to stay for that. I don't know if you want the whole team to stay or. I'm happy for you guys to go. No problems.
We've got comments, thanks to Thomas' comments about very mapping for the councillors for the opposite list. Thanks to weeks really about the presentation, page 3.4, and maybe look at how the actions and outcomes are worded. So Thomas' comments about see if what the conclusions are at a certain point during the report, see what happens next. Is the report will stop ending? Tracy advice would be added into the next plan. Your comment, Councillor Thomas, about the apprenticeships. Councillor Pym's comment about the troubleshooting page from the website. That's pretty good, right?
Also, Neil, it was online tutorials on how to use the digital services for people who are new to the council website. So these could be recorded and put on YouTube for everyone to access.
So,
That's between ourselves.
yes. Councillor Thomas' comments about the exit interviews. Kevin said that there's some take up, and there's some uptake of it, perhaps we can mandate an exit interview. Your comment here about how we can improve things again, how the way the reports are written, how is actions being carried forward into the next year.
Yeah. We'll pick that up to the agenda item for us.
Apart from those, was there any other comments, recommendations that you would like to make?
I think he said something about there was somewhere where a few was referred to, and there was somewhere else where it was more and more. And he didn't give a,
Just no, mentioning the pre-meeting to new plan.
oh, was it a pre-meeting? I'm sorry.
It wasn't.
You're supposed to pick that up telepathically. Yeah, it was actually about what comments which were neither quantitative or qualitative. So something was mentioned about more and more, and something else about a few. And it would be good to have actually, there was some reference to what's the more and more. That was about something that happened
That was
pre-COVID or something, wasn't it? And it would have been nice to know actually how far we were going back on this one. And and then there was something on page 42, 33, sickness days, and then highest absence rates for a few years.
Yeah, the more and more managers continue to engage in H&S managing
Yeah. And the
program, which is
just, you know, so we can have some context for that, so we can actually
Do we want to,
Go on, Chris. Go on.
so do we want as a committee, bit of an update on the enclosure of the city centre? The civic centre, sorry, the city centre. Yeah.
that was obviously the objective.
I'm guessing we'll pick that up as part of the mid-service review, midterm reviews, really, won't we? But
It's something will be in there relatively, the ongoing
Yeah,
aspects of the
absolutely.
project.
Yeah. So, so what I've told you today is the update.
Right.
But we can certainly provide an update.
More to see that it's progressing, but we're starting to make the savings as well that we projected in the budget. With
Yeah, that was
sense
it.
check on that. That's fine.
Councillor Pym, did you want to come in again?
Yeah, I'm not sure when the best part of the scrutiny committee is to raise this, but it was based around finance and the number of people that are working from home at the moment. Because whether as a local authority, we're looking into offering some kind of compensation for our employees who have to work at home. I know a number of people that get some support from their businesses, but whether that's a contribution towards their Wi-Fi, their heat and electric, now that they're spending more and more time in their own properties, using their own facilities to do their job. I know that, like I said, money is incredibly tight, but you know, something that we could review in the future to support our employees, especially if we're expecting them to use their own properties to work for us.
Are you happy to pick that up now, or do you want to?
Yeah, just really quickly, because I know you're.
Yeah.
And then if there's more detail, absolutely provide that. So we don't mandate anyone to work from home. There is, and in the 2-day closure, that wouldn't change. We would expect to have a seat for those who want a seat in the office on those days. We have a policy, Kevin will explain what it is, I can't think of the name of it, where people can opt to work at home full time. There's a very, very small number that have opted for that. You just want to remind us what that is.
Yeah, so along with all our flexible kind of working applications, home working is one of those. It's a voluntary request, so the employees request it straight to say we don't mandate anybody to work from home, which is where you start to get into the realms of reimbursement and stuff. But with the voluntary arrangement. So
That said, we're keen to support everyone. Everyone has a laptop and the right to IT.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not wanting to support people, but we're not contributing to heating bills and taking it that next step.
You can claim
Thank
that
you.
from in that revenue, can't you? So,
It's a very small amount.
Yeah.
It's some expensive.
Times 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good one. Yeah. Thank you. Perfect. Thanks all. Everybody all right to go through all? Right, okay.
This is my imagination, Mary. But it seems like people, they would never let people.
I'm going to explain.
That's all I think. It's going to say welcome. I think new bakers almost with me just getting on.
So definitely.
I want to give person, but
My pleasure. What we were told, Marion, is that you know, don't need to put your name tag, everyone knows you. No.
Anything for the public.
Sorry, I think, yeah, we're gonna stick your apology to the September meeting. Yes. Okay,
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So first of all, I will address the points just made by Councillor Meeks, which is we've got a number of people either who've left post and they're not here. So that will be the Deputy Head of Finance, Rob. So I'll have to cover for accountancy. I'll get back to you if I have one answer. I'm also covering for audits because obviously we haven't that externally provided at the moment, and the acting auditor is on leave. It's Emma Johnson is also on currently. So we've got Louise and Paul here who are team leaders in the Revs and Beds team. Louise does revenue side of things. Paul does the housing and the benefits side. So new faces there, and then I was on Terry's service manager for customer services. Before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But been in the council for a long time.
Yeah.
But in a service manager role now, following the council restructure when things came into finance. Obviously, Richard, I know you've seen.
yes, before.
So we are kind of slightly depleted due to vacancies and sort of leave at the moment. But anything that we don't know, we'll have to take it away, Chair. And
Yeah,
get right.
no problem at all. Yeah. Perfect. Well, welcome everyone. Do you want to give us some brief highlights and then we'll sort of throw open the questions?
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, did you want to say anything?
No. Okay. Yeah. So big issues for us last year was 3 or 4 things. One is the council's new financial system. Essentially, last year was the kind of the year that was leading up to the go live date. That was done successfully. Very challenging project, but is now in. Not without its unexpected challenges, but working. We obviously had a very difficult year in audit with staff leaving the authority, and that made us onto the council's corporate risk register. We were down to a member of staff. We successfully recruited 2 junior staff, but we weren't able to recruit into the middle and senior roles. So that service has been provided by SWAP, Southwest Audit Partnerships, and that is still the case this year, whilst we put the longer term arrangements in place. So that was a challenging year in kind of audit last year, but ultimately a successful one. So I'm very pleased to sort of confirm that in my introduction here. We amalgamated the revenues and benefits teams last year. Big restructure. We now have a combined service, and whilst they are quite separate functions, there is a small core that sits in the middle with a foot in both camps. So we successfully did that, and obviously we carried out an external review of customer services across the council as well, and we are developing an implementation plan now on that as well. So
the thing that we've got planned coming this
that's becoming in September, isn't it? Yeah,
we probably won't dwell on that today.
That's fine.
And then we'll pick up, we can sort of deal with that specifically.
Yeah, we can give you a brief update as to where that is as of today. But so our PIs, we've got some ambers in there, but only just ambers. Mainly a successful year. We do take and focus on our staff type of processes, like the check-ins, return to works, etc. We do make.
But you've got the rest of those.
We make them important, and the guys here, the team leaders, and get the message. And we are, quite good at those. I think it's important in this hybrid working that is something that we do. as we look forward. So our performance has been good in a very difficult year. You know, I won't lie, the financial system and has really pushed accountancy to a very difficult place. And that will continue for this year as we bear it now. Sickness was also a challenge last year. Long-term sickness was our problem, and unfortunately, it was all focused literally in accountancy on one team. So that was really challenging in that area. They're back at work now, but last year was incredibly difficult. And I think that 2 or 3 of our more challenging transformation projects has probably highlighted capacity and skills issues as well, which we are resolving. But I think it just shone a torch on that, as it were, which was no surprise, but it was sort of it came to light, so sort of became real, that one, and that continues to be the case as well. So there's a bit of a link back there to the recruitment and process issues. That's my introduction. I don't know if there's any particular issues. What's the detail now?
Yeah, fantastic. Sir Thomas?
Yeah, you made mention of filling the positions for the junior audit stuff. I think you'll know from what comments I've made previously about audit that I recognise how important it is, and the function that it has or can potentially have in saving or avoiding the loss of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of pounds in revenue to the council. So, we recognise, we hope that we can recover that, it can be in-house again. But you mentioned the 2 junior posts that were recruited for. What happened to those posts when you are now having to engage with another authority to get that service externally?
Yeah, so we've got 3 Newport City Council employees within the institutional audit structure at the moment, and we have another 2 equivalent roles or workload being delivered externally, including the chief internal auditor role as well.
Right, so they're
managers them.
They're able to potter on.
They are part of a bigger team. Yeah. Right. So we've got the audit plan, and that audit plan is distributed within the team. He is external, all kind of into teams. So it worked really well last year, where we thought at the beginning of the year that we were going to really struggle, but SWAP came in and really hit the road running, and that continues to be the case now as well.
I suppose that could be a strength, really, couldn't it? Their experience with a wider.
Well, we are looking at options for the long term, and just touching upon your comments there about the internal team, as it were. The internal audit team is a very small team. We do have issues there around skill sets at times, or specialisms, etc. And certainly, I think that this council's best interests are served by an external, public service partnership type.
So is that the long term?
It is. So I'm looking at that now. I'm having conversations with a couple of options. They're both public sector partnerships. So, public sector only sort of clients, governments, etc. And actually that provides some numbers, better career development and opportunities, easier recruitment from their perspective compared to us internally, specialisms that we don't have now, especially around the data matching approaches. And actually, a different approach to looking at risk within the council, and then developing an audit plan, born out of experience with many clients. All sorts of reasons why I think the partnership will probably serve this council better in the future. But significantly, it's about resilience.
Yes.
Last year,
well, we'll look forward to seeing the outcome of that.
Yeah, so that's obviously mentioned in this report now, it's in the first plan for this year, which is obviously deliver that longer term. So we should clearly, we will be having some conversations with the governance and audit committee about that. Clearly, they're a key stakeholder in that. You know, ultimately, it's for the council cabinet to make the decision, but clearly, you know, very respectful of the governance and audit committee and their views. Will be talking to them over the next 2 to 3 months now, and then we'll come to a review.
Thanks, Chair. Just on that point, Marion, the committee looking at the service reports last week, in terms of recruitment issues, and mentioning market supplements. Obviously, it take a little bit more to get the right people. Is this a possibility for people in the audit that you, or sort of other positions you need to fill, or not something you want to do?
It's not something that, as a council, that I don't believe that we are implementing, because that creates some potential equal pay issues.
Well, which was the point I raised last.
Yeah, so it's something that I've raised and asked for, but the feedback I've kind of had is that that's a difficult place to sort of go. We've said this before, pay is an issue. Pay is important to some staff. You know, yes, flexibility of work is also important. Pay is important. Our professional qualified staff, we've always struggled with our pay compared to other sectors like civil service, health. You know, it doesn't compare well, etc. So yeah, so it's not really an option for us, I don't think.
Yeah, I suppose a couple of bits from me. So I think one, there is a market supplement. Well, not market supplement. There's a process by which you can advertise for, I think it's 3 times additional to those grades, and we can provide information committee on that. But I can ask.
We've seen the policy. It came and we questioned it last year. So we know there is a market supplement policy. Dean Moran doesn't, but we know there is one. So, but I think there's probably a reluctance because it can open up a can of worms.
The issue you've got is, and you would have seen this, you know, with Birmingham Council, they were dealing with one of the issues Birmingham had. They were dealing with unmet equal pay claims. You know, hundreds of millions of pounds. So, you know, we haven't got any outstanding equal pay claims in Newport, and that's because of the job evaluation policy and process that we put in place. That's great on one hand, but on the other, we haven't got the flexibility that private sector organisations have got around pay. So, you know, I think for me, there's a couple of bits that talked earlier on in the previous one around apprenticeships and traineeships, and the media talked about, you know, growing your own, and I think that's part of it. We've had conversations about what apprenticeship opportunities are available, and traineeships as well, not just apprenticeships, so graduate traineeship processes. And I think probably have to accept, like local authorities used to be years ago, they would train people up and then they would move off into the world. So, you know, moving back to that costs, because obviously there's a cost of doing it, and also even the best trainee and apprentice in the world is not as capable and you know, produces as much output as a fully qualified, experienced person. So there's some challenges around that. You know, it's difficult. It's a difficult situation.
So,
but there's ways around it.
What I will say is we do have a policy. I'm aware of the policy. There are some practical challenges around its implementation, which then, you know, gives us a challenge sometimes.
Touching back on your public service partnership, I think you called it, is that the similar arrangement that we've got with our IT at the moment? Would be the same type of thing?
Yes, in the sense
Yeah.
of they deliver services to the public sector.
Yeah.
So that's what we.
So would that be a separate sort of public service company then?
So they come in various guises, but what they all are partnerships. They come in all cases. They're not companies as such, in terms of profit-making companies. Right, so, etc. So what you've got is scale.
Yeah.
And all the opportunities that I mentioned earlier.
And you've also got potential for that company to pay high salaries.
Well, you can, public, with the public, sorry,
No, no.
so for instance, SRS, Shared Resource Service for IT Services, but technically those staff are employed by Torvine Council. So their constraints are exactly the same as ours. They're on a local authority pay structure. Something like the Newport North joint venture isn't, because it's a separate company.
Yeah.
So, you know, what we're looking at, there are all variety of different models, and you know, that we will probably have to explore more and more over the next few years around how we deliver some services. And
yeah,
you know, the public sector partnerships can come in different flavors as well, all the way up to, you know, the local authority trading companies, which are, you know, essentially a company registered in companies' hand.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was thinking back to the work we did when we were looking at the models for North, and is that something that it seems ideal to sort of look out for the audit type stuff. Yeah.
I think these with, sorry, I think you can't, I wouldn't look at something like that just for something. Audit is 6 or 7 people full complement. It's not really a big thing. It's not a thing you could do on your own. That's why we're looking to join it with a local authority. A collection of services in partnership with another local authority, then obviously your options for what you could do with that.
Yeah. Thanks. Sorry, hold that bit. Go on, Chris.
Thanks, Shay. Well, if we can just look at the new financial system at the moment, the upgraded new financial system report on page 62. You see it's include all modules, exception of debtors, which have been delayed, and forecasted assets, both not required to start the financial year, which is fair enough. So you talk about the plan to go live for debtors later on this year or next year. But what about the forecasting assets side of it? What's the plans for that side?
So for the transactional payment services went live on the 1st of April. Monitoring and forecasting has gone live in the last month or so, as we kicked off our in-year financial monitoring processes. That's gone quite well. Oh yeah, a couple of issues, but they were resolved. We will go live on debtors in the autumn, November time. And then the assets side of things about the same time as well. And that's only because obviously the auditors being at the moment doing the council's financial accounts. They'll finish their work in October time, and that clearly would include all of our assets, details, etc. So when we've got a figure from the audits that we know that we've got, that will then be switched on, put into new asset register within the new financial system. So again, that's sort of a natural time scale of the autumn as well, because you run the risk of putting it in today. The auditors may pick up on stuff, etc., and they have to kind of correct your all forward. So we'll just wait until the audit's done, and we'll do it then. So yeah, so we've got a couple of areas to go live in.
With regards then the debtors going live, you know, sort of say, but is this, when it's a part of the new system, is this more an internal thing for the council, or will people who owe us the money, the debtors, will they see a difference in the way that they communicate or their engagement with the council change?
Yeah, we won't be giving external debtors access to the system so that they can self-serve. So from an external debtors perspective, they'll still be receiving similar letters, etc. It may look slightly different in design, but that is all. The big difference is kind of internal. So, for example, on every manager now gets a dashboard. That dashboard now will include all the outstanding debts against their budget area.
In theory, we should see a drop in the debtors then as opposed to an
Well,
increase. In theory,
Managers need to engage.
yes,
Clearly. But that being the case, I can see why you would say that comment, but that information at the moment is not anywhere near as visible as that. That's for the future. We'll give them every single, they can then drill into
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
single kind of invoice that's outstanding.
knowledge is power.
Well, you've got, that's your starting point. So, yeah, each one to use the system. That will step with us.
We heard in the last meeting there was a bit of an issue with sort of the implementation of all the new bin services and the recycling services that people need to pay for, and the finance system, and being able to bill people for direct debits and people getting bills for the full amount. Has that all been resolved now?
So I'm not aware of that level of detail.
Right, okay.
I do know that the recurring in invoicing is an area that we're still that the new system has been is more challenging than what we have currently. That's what we need to get right. So it kind of ties in with the ways there. But we're not live with it yet. So actually, all the current billing has been done on the existing system that we've had for many years.
Right, okay. Can I just let Councillor Hawken give it a second?
Am I there? You see me?
Yes. Can't see camera, but we can hear you.
No, I know what it's done. It's jumped across to my phone. Sorry. Right now, yeah. Apple is wonderful, but sometimes it just does weird and wonderful things. Just to clear an interest, what I'm about to say. Yes, I've had another invoice come through, which was a credit invoice for the full amount of the previous invoice that I spoke about last week. So things are happening in the background, and so they are moving forward.
As I said, we're using the existing system. There's been no changes to our debtors arrangements at this point. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they are. Like I said, last week I had an invoice for the full amount, or a couple of weeks ago for the full amount, where it's supposed to be a direct debit payment, and then I've had another invoice come in the last couple of days, which was a credit note for the full amount. So something's going on. Whether or not
last time it was the new finance system that was causing the billing issues. So
not in debtors. I mean, there is going to be over the next 2 years a lot of changes in how our waste and refuse, especially with commercial, will be operating. But that's because of legislation UK wide that will impact us as well as every other local authority. So, you know, it's there's going to be some ups and downs, I suspect, not because of any system stuff, just because actually there's a very different landscape for this area. Going to be around for the next couple of years. It's bound to cause its teething issues, I suspect.
And just for clarity on what you're referring to, Chair, you meant the commercial recycling. Because obviously the only thing which we're billing for on the other side is damage to main bins, isn't it?
As I said, the existing systems in use, and we will increasingly, I'm sure, be talking about billing arrangements of commercial waste in the future as the landscape changes very, very significantly in this area.
I'll just come back on talk, just carry on from the debtors point then. On page 74 of the report, we talk of percentage of council tax arrears collected. So I'm thinking of debts, 31.49%. It's obviously short 35%. Is this an issue because of direct debiting scheme pushing out payments? And what impact is that on us? Are we talking small amounts of money so that it won't affect the budget?
Yeah, so I'll start this, but maybe Louise may want to just supplement. So we are having to think about these PIs in this council tax area, because I don't think it's as clear as it needs to be. The new service plan will hopefully make it clearer. But in the year that we bill council tax, so this year we've all had our 23-24 council tax bills, right? £65 million. Yeah. And we assume a collection rate of 97.5, I think. Don't quote me on that one, but now then, we do not collect 97.5% in the year. That's because there's always arrears. However, of course, you will chase those arrears. You may collect some of your 24/5 bills in the following year. You may collect some of it in the following year after that. Clearly, after about 2 or 3 years, it gets more and more difficult because they're getting quite old at that point. So therefore, what that PI is doing is saying, of our total arrears, are we actually making progress on collecting it? Because we have to, because we budget to collect 97.5% of what we bill, and therefore we know that we don't collect it all in the same year. But you do have to make progress on those arrears to at least get to your 97.5 in that reasonable 2 to 3 years.
Yeah,
It's not a period.
the same question came up last year, and I remember you answered it exactly the same way.
Yeah, but I think our PIs though are not entirely clear on this point. And I think so Emma and I discussed this only last week to try and
The measure is probably percentage of historical council tax that we collected, or words to that effect.
that PI there is the official kind of Welsh Government PI.
Yeah.
So it is our collection rate, but that does assume, we assume that we'll be collecting a proportion of our arrears over the following couple of years. And that PI is after you've made that assumption. Every council across Wales reports on that to the same sort of framework. Our collection is actually holding up really well, isn't it? Compared to other councils across Wales. Cost of living has been an issue across Wales or across the UK. We did have some short-term funding for 3 posts, and 2 of them important, which we think is making a big difference. Emma was quoting sort of a 0.5%. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but in monetary terms, that's lots of money. When your gross debit is 65 million. So, because after the letters have been sent out, it then does become a person-on-person conversation, and that's where you need the bodies to have those conversations. And we're very flexible here. We do understand that cost of living is an issue, which is very, very real. And actually, we make lots of arrangements, don't we, which people can afford, hopefully, and we think we get engagement, don't we?
Yeah, we'll focus on the current collection and then be reasonable in terms of collection on the arrears then. Onto the cost of living issues and so the arrangements are a bit longer, but we need to still to collect it as we can. It's affordable.
Our cases that go to court, etc., significant amount of those are people that haven't engaged.
Which is always the way, isn't it?
Which is the people that have engaged, and therefore there are arrangements in place. Of course, they don't go onto the list as it. And we always tell people best to nip this in the bud and sort of photos as it were. But anyway, but because of those extra resources that we've got, we think that making a difference. But also our approach here, our collection rate has held up pretty well. So we were probably in the bottom 5 in kind of Wales. As now we're kind of mid-ish table. We're kind of mid-table in kind of Wales. Now, I'd like to say that's because we're much better, actually, just because actually we've maintained, and generally other councils have kind of suffered a decline. But we maintained our performance in a difficult environment. Therefore, our position is now kind of mid to the table. So, but I'll be very clear that's because we do have a very enabling kind of approach, which is recognised and appreciated.
This is administrative processes and services within customer service. This move towards artificial intelligence, is that you, Gary? It sounds exciting, very bewildering, or possibly very exciting if it's cutting out the mundane and the duplicative. How does it work then?
One of the things that we're starting off with is with council tax for emails. So customer services deals with all the emails that are coming through contact us from the website. And they can be just about anything.
Are you telling me they would all come to me personally? It feels like it.
So what we're looking at doing, when you get an email in, it can be about anything. And I think sometimes it's difficult to understand actually what the resident wants. Quite often they don't give enough information, so it's kind of like email, you know, it's back and forth sometimes. So what we're looking at doing is putting a form into the email, and then you have a robot, AI, artificial intelligence in the background. And what they do is they pick out parts of the form, and you can then pass that email off to where it needs to be, to somebody that can deal with it. And because it's in a form scenario, we're asking for specific information, so there's not so much back and forth. The other thing that we can do is we can also refer them to certain web pages where they can actually self-serve themselves. So it's just trying to break that down a little and reduce the numbers that come in, because I think your guys and customer service, we get an awful lot through email.
So it puts it into the right person's inbox to resolve. But even before you get to that point, if you can divert the customer to a bit of our website that gives them the answer anyway, or enables them to self-serve, even before it reaches anybody's kind of physical kind of inbox, then it allows us to also do that as well. So
Does it, can I ask then, does it do that automatically related to a website first, or does it still allow you to send the query?
that's where the forms are useful, because they have to fill in specific information about what they're writing in for. Then allows the automation to sort of say, okay, this person wants to know about school places next year, or they want to know about how do I pay my council tax arrears, and it'll guide you to the right place. An email just in a box doesn't do anything. You need an individual to be sitting down, reading it and saying, what's this about then? Who do I need to give this to? And oh, I'm going anywhere near have the information that I need, which sets off ping pong, games as well. And then, but that's all manual, people-led sort of stuff, where the automation will now hopefully divert people quicker, but ultimately to the person in a quicker way. And that's just something that this is something that, if it works in revenues and works in customer services, will also work in the other services, customer services type inboxes as well, because we have many more customer services type inboxes, not just customer services. So it can be applied to lots of other applications. So these guys are doing a proof of working with.
Yeah, we'll also be looking at other things such as, for instance, parking permits, because that is that is resource intensive. Tell us once, where we download information about deaths, and obviously we need to check them through libraries, etc. That again is resource intensive. So there's a few things, administrative tasks that take place in customer services, and not just the calls or the face-to-face visits. There are a number of tasks that we have to assign to people, which means at the moment time off the phone to complete them. So by automating as much as we can, it should reduce the amount of off-phone time.
Did we have any figures on this in these, or have I missed it?
There's things that we are developing now.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so we'll see them in the next. We'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Sure,
So I think revenues are getting quite close, aren't you now, I think, to get to that inbox of sorted. I don't know how close you are to it. I think we are getting quite close now.
Yeah, we've started making
Yeah.
progress on that.
And then if it works well there,
Yeah.
Kerry's next.
And-
And then I did conclude.
Yeah.
We'll look to see where it can be applied, generally as it were.
I mean,
Come in on that then, please.
It was a general one. I know we could have a session in September. And we got but just to say, so there was a question on Friday in Open Scrutiny Management Committee when we took the digital strategy through around the difference between robotic processing and AI, because they're not the same.
This is robotic.
Yeah, so I'll
Yeah.
give the same layperson's explanation to that. So robotic processing, which we're generally talking about, is essentially a bit of software in there that recognizes rules. So you write a thing in this box, it will put that in that box over here. You tick this, it will do that. So it's a series of rules, you program it, it'll do it. It's not AI, it's not ChatGPT, it's not Copilot, right? It's not something that will take a range of information, think about a suitable response to that. All right, they are different things. One's really cheap, bots really cheap, could do a lot of the processing type stuff. AI more complicated and more expensive. So I think that's point number one. Point number two, just to say, the whole purpose for doing this is to remove as much person time from doing those things as possible, because the stuff then that those teams are now dealing with is really complicated. You need a person to do that. You need to move them from one place to another to do the more difficult thing.
And I mean, this is something I've been banging on about. We cannot leave these people who need that voice interaction. We can't leave them out in the wilderness. We've really got to continue, probably forever, to support them, because
So processes will be designed to take people to the appropriate place as quickly as possible, and where they want to and can to self-serve. But ultimately, it will take them to a person quicker than the current kind of individual manual kind of process.
I mean, we can promise them that should be helpful to some people as an explanation. However, there are still people who are, quite upset, get upset. I mean, just take an example. I don't know. It's nothing to do with any department, anybody here is it? But the reporting of missed rubbish collections, that's gone online now, haven't they? People are being told that they can't do it any other way than online.
Our online take-up, again, the PIs here show it is really quite impressive.
Yeah.
Where we have an online capability, they've been really well used.
Yeah.
Because the PI there can none of us here would say that everybody finds it easy. The people here that know me well, like sort of BCA, I'm making this look very to these things at times, but actually where they make sense, where they're designed well, actually, we've got really good take-up of our offer of online services.
It's just the offer of the base. So it's not going to go away. It's going to haunt us. But I mean, that is fair enough. We have to accept that we're always going to be people in society who don't have the capacity to engage with online systems.
And that's what Lisa's point about when money is tight and our resources, the demand.
We have to make the best.
Just don't match.
Yeah.
We have to keep our people
to
deal with those people that kind of need to have it.
Keep the resources.
Just take a final point on this particular, because we're probably going to go into this, as you pointed out, in the sort of meeting in September. So if I take your final point on it, because you won't be here in September, we'll move on.
No, Kate covered it.
Okay, fine.
Pick up that exact same thing. We don't leave anybody to navigate to, if they can't navigate online, they get in touch with us. So
We recognise that there is still digital property out there. We understand that, and I think you don't want to leave anybody behind. And what the operators do in the contact centre, they do ask a number of questions if people say that they can't do it, just to kind of establish, because we have had residents who do have the capability and the equipment to do it, but they like to ring and have that chat as well.
Referred them to a counsellor.
And they do prefer people, talking to somebody because they don't perhaps trust technology. It won't get where it's going to get. So they do ask some kind of simplistic questions about whether they have support, etc. And they do offer for them to come into face to face, and we can coach them through it on the PCs, etc., and talk them through it. But if it is an ultimate, they can't do it, then the staff will help. So we don't need any help.
Yeah, so moving on from that one, as I said, I just want to clarify, and this might be where we start to look at reports with change of the way things around, etc. A bit more clarity. Just so on page 67, point 3, we've got
Which page number of the actual reports is that? It's on the bottom of the pages.
We
normally use that translate page.
page 12.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so page 12. We're going to start date Jan 23, end dates March 25. Sorry, April 23, 31st March 25. You've got 0%, and then you're at 4%. Apologies, 0.3, right? Yeah, October 22 to October 24, starting date 5%, and suddenly that's completed. Page 68, next one down. Again, we've got a 5%. 5% mid-year assessment in amber, then 5% in green. Yet we've got an end date of 24. And on page 69 to 70, 1, 2, and 3, we've got what appears to be answers that are potentially a lot of it seems to be copied and pasted. So is this just the way that the report's been set out? And you're going to look to sort of a bit more clarity in it? Because if you go back to your report, page 13, for example, a 5% amber, then a 5% green, and you're going to finish it by December 24. I think that sounds a bit of a tall order. So we're looking to split these things down a bit more information for us.
We can advance what I was saying, but what we have done for the service plan this year is a lot more focus on these IT developments in both revenues and in customer services, because I take your same points that we've got some replication in here, and the dates don't make a huge amount of sense. Also, of course, we finished the customer services review last year, and that's kind of spawned the thought process, because the IT development needs to go hand in hand with the implementation of that customer services review as well. So I think there are some usually in here, absolutely, and that is something that we've resolved in the new service plan by getting rid of the duplication and getting these data clear. So I take your point, and we're fixing it. I don't know if there's anything else.
No, I think in terms of the development, we were slow through that, but I'd say probably in the last half quarter, we've done a lot of work with MCS development in terms of replacing certain systems for information security. We have looked at some efficiencies in education psychology and moved them from paper-based onto MCS. So we started off slow, but we have made a lot of progress since then. And then that focus will change again once we start the implementation of the customer contact project. That we'll see. So that's why it started off at 0, and then we suddenly had a big success from a flux of development.
There was a period of the beginning of the year, some frustration that we weren't making some progress. We then got a list of areas that we were targeting, and the areas that we mentioned. So we did provide a bit more focus. It now goes to the digital board in terms of the governance of this development. And as I said, we now need to also add to this list that we've now got what comes out of the implementation of customer services review that we do, because that will clearly, it will be, I just cannot see why that would create further development of
of MCS to help automate, stuff. So that will bring its own workload as well, which we can add to this. But yeah, so there was an acceleration in the second paragraph generally, but I do think also I think there was a couple of duplications and some. Okay.
If we're sort of if we're sort of coming to the end of this report now. I just wanted to say, you started off, when you were speaking about, there's been a lot of challenges this year, quite difficult stuff.
Yeah.
But I just wondered, what do you need actually to sort of provide support? I mean, is there something that we as a committee can, what's your wish list?
No, I mean, I need to recruit a deputy head of finance. That's my biggest wish. Obviously, full taxes, etc. I don't think that.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this committee. Everybody is going to sit here and say resources is a challenge. Yeah, we just need to live with that. That's why we're automating. That's why we're going to doing these things. So I'm very grateful for the offer, and I'm very grateful for the support the user committee gives us in terms of finance. Yeah, at the moment I've got some practical issues like staff and skill sets. We've got some difficult transformation projects that are challenging us, and we've got some both just tricky but also technically tricky as well. And we need some bodies that can help us with that. I get a lot of positives, etc. But yeah, I could do with recruiting probably one of the councils, probably one of the key service managers across the council, which is a deputy section 1. So it's a difficult post to fill, and we're having a second go at it now, using an outside agency to help us this time. So I've got a couple of weeks left to right. But thank you for your offer. I appreciate the continued support.
Thank you. Any other questions on the finance service areas? We just need to wrap up those recommendations.
General comments from Councillor Thomas in regards to the internal audit team. Look forward to seeing the outcomes of their work. The importance of having the support there for face-to-face contact, important to keep resources intact. Apart from that, Chair, got any recommendations? Is there any other recommendations the committee would like to make in regards to the report?
We will obviously pick up on the previous review as well, where Councillor Major wanted actually I don't know about the online kind of YouTube kind of tutorials. So we'll touch base on IT codes and that one.
Yeah. That was it, because the rest were questions which were answered satisfactorily.
Yes.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you all for your time. Lovely to meet all the new faces. Hope to see you next time. We just get a minute break. Oh, that's good. I need some water. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Thanks everyone, welcome back. And to our last review of this year, so it's positive. Last service review, so we've done well to get through them. Law and standards, we've had appointments from Mike, and I guess you'll be substituting for Mike with the individual managers, Reece.
Yeah, so I'll do a brief overview and also we'll try and answer the question for us. So just introduction, I think you probably know everybody, but Dan Rowlands, Democratic Electoral Services Manager, Jane Clark, Coroner Service Manager, and Matt Harry Blaney, Assistant Head of Law Standards.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank
I
you.
think technically that should mean you should do this, but as the assistant. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so this is the law and standards service area. I think I'm right in saying it's a smaller service area in the local authority. So, but it does have a really, really important work for it. And as Officer just said, democratic services, electoral services. So no, we don't hold many risks across that beyond actions, registration service and coroner service. So obviously the coroner service is on behalf of Gwent. And then all of the obviously legal services, but within that role then, like it was due today, got statutory responsibilities, so obviously the monitoring officer for the local authority, senior risk owner for information governance, etc. So really, really important things within the service area. During last year, I think we reported back in the mid-year reviews, there's some of the recruitment and retention problems we have, particularly legal services. And shoot, Howard, will you to answer any specific questions about that? But between Howard and Mike, did a really, really good job on that in giving us, I think, probably almost up to, if not up to, full compliments. Started using locums for work within that. So that's been really, really good. James been leading on a really critical piece of work as well around the movement of the coroner service from this building to Livingston House. You can update on that, and just to replay that. So obviously, whilst we've got a coroner's court within the building, it was built between 1930s and 1950s standards, not 2024. So issues around disabled access, etc., and actually general state of the building meant that we're actually living about. So that's been really challenge, but actually really good progress on that over the year as well. Giving some technical updates and implementations across the service area as well. Like we talked about in the previous ones about automation, but some critical things in there around case management, which has supported teams to operate more effectively. And whilst not technically in 23-24, obviously all the preparatory work for ensuring that we can run elections within the legislative framework was done. That's resulted in both a successful TC election and also general election with no hiccups. So good, some good performance overall. Performance measures all three for the year. I would say, and probably something I should have said before Tracy and Myron spoke, we are doing a review across corporate services about performance measures for 24-25. There are some in there which are national measures we have to record, but we're also looking at some measures that show how we're enabling the organisation to operate as well. Because as you imagine, across the directorate, most of what we do is to enable the rest of the organisation to operate effectively. I think that should do as a brief overview.
Yeah,
fantastic. Take questions.
Yep, and we'll throw open to the floor. Councillor Reece.
I don't know if you can answer this one, but just really picking up initially on the sickness and the check-ins. The check-ins are below target where they should be, quite hugely, but again they are below. Service areas quite low. Is this partly to do with the remoteness of people working and not being able to sort of in that much contact with them, or is this more a question that Mike would need really to answer?
I think between us we could probably have a good stab at that. I think the last year was problematic because of the gaps we had within the infrastructure. because of vacancies and some long-term sickness as well within the service. So I think that's impacted a bit on that.
Yeah, I think we were absolutely a litigation manager for a long time. Mike was without a deputy, so he's trying to sort of manage a lot. And I think checking to come a bit lower down the list than they otherwise would be. We've also had local managers that we're quite up to speed and didn't have to do. But that, if you could see the figures now, I think we see a great increase in the number of check-ins that are actually being completed, because we've got for the first time in a long time a full complement of managers and really praising their role and to be doing a lot better.
It's fine. Obviously, it's on topic.
I'm just going to say the sickness rates are actually very, quite impressively lower than the whole of the, the new councillors on average. You've got any? Is there anything? What are you doing?
Because there weren't so many people there.
That can increase fitness levels, can't it? If people are feeling pressure. Yeah.
I think partly, if you think about it, if you look at all the big service areas, people in lower standards, but mileage is higher, which is what customer service is pretty low. I think corporate services tend to have a lower sickness rate than the organisation in general. Because if you think, the vast majority of those, if you take out schools, corporate staff, the vast majority of staff either work in social services or city services type of activities.
So the costs are having to deal with
sickness rates within those services are always higher because of the activities they're undertaking. So corporate services tend to be low. That's, I think, sickness rates were a bit higher this year than they've previously been within that service. And obviously, and if you look at finances are usually the lower sickness rate, but since customer services transferred, they got that.
Right.
Yeah, go on. Yeah. If you go to page number 6 on the report, it's point 6, sorry, with the low carbon vehicle literacy training. So 58% of elected members have attended the training. I think something raised in the standards committee a few months back, Liam, I think you were in there at the time, about having the training record, a report every sort of 3 months sent out to the group leaders and business managers, so that then they can help chase through to get the people trained. Do you know if there's any movement any work been done on that?
Yeah, the first quarterly update went out next month, I believe. So they can provide the quarterly update, and then we could also provide a report to the standard and to the democratic services committees. It wouldn't necessarily have all the detail of individuals in those reports, but the individual group will come back in September next one is due. So yeah, we'll be on the back of that feedback from standards.
I received one from my husband. Really cool. Able people. There you go. I definitely.
Councillor Screen, you wanted to make a point earlier on today on members training. So I don't know if you wanted to come back in at this point.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Chair. As I said, it's my first time on this committee. Yeah, it's about members training. Just to say that, we do live in troubled times, and I think security of members needs to be, thought about a bit more. Some training in order to keep members safe, what to do, what not to do. And I'm not just talking about, council members, but also community councils. Community councils are elected, and I know from my, my own experience that community councils can have security concerns, particularly with dealing with different residents. So I just wanted to hope that some kind of training program would be put through you know, to you know, make members aware of security issues or potential security issues and how to protect themselves when dealing with members of the public and so on. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Screen.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. So I'm trying to think back now. Is it in the autumn? I think we did. I did the intro to it. So Ian Martin, who's the civil contingency manager, and Superintendent Jason White did a joint session for members on. It was on personal security because obviously, you know, you've got a wide role within your community. So it's about ensuring you've got equipped with the skills to assess the risks associated with doing that and taking appropriate steps, but then also knowing who to speak to if you've got particular concerns. Back in the last year and then also this year, we sent out counter-terrorism policing undertook a range of online training sessions as well. So we sent the details out for those. They come up periodically, Councillor Screen. And they're useful, whilst they're badges with counter-terrorism policing, they are really around your personal security and actually assessing the risks, and that intensified as we went towards the election. If there's anything you want to add to that, yeah.
Yeah, just to add that I know that is feedback we've had from the community councillors themselves as well. So I think we did look to have a date in the diary following the training that went out to our elected members, but there wasn't high take up on that date, so we were looking to reappoint that in the diary. So we're looking for a date now in September, Councillor Screen, so it'd be really good to get that support back from the community councillors to attend.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, that's very reassuring. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. In terms of the council's low work, does that apply to elected members?
Shouldn't quite the same.
Because I presume you would provide devices to loan workers who work out in the community. Part of the loan working policy and a buddy system of some sort and all the rest of it. I just want to know whether that applies to members and whether it's a duty on council to safeguard members working in the community.
It is different. I'll get an appropriate answer. It is different because you're not technically.
I know, yeah. So that's why.
So our employees, I can't remember the name of the system. So there is a system in place. So if we've got local, which obviously we try not to do as much as possible, but if we've got local workers, there's a system in place to ensure that they are safe whilst doing that. It isn't quite the same for elected members because aren't employees of the organisation. So what we tend to do is equip them with the skills really. If there are specific issues, there are things that can be put in place. That, you know, we work really closely with the police. You know, around target hardening devices, really. So things, you know, if you have issues at home, things about home, things that you can carry on your person, etc.
Yeah, just wondered really, you know, and there might be some of those systems that are there already for staff that might be easy enough for members to tap into and use if they felt they wanted to. That's why I was just throwing it out there really for consideration.
Yeah, I think we did some discussions at the training around the differences between, you know, employees and elected members. I think I have to go back and check. We did agree that we would be able to provide some handheld devices, security devices through the police. So I can dig that out and send that out again as a reminder. And we can certainly give consideration to the other system.
Yeah, no, thanks. Useful. Well, keep the thought really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, as far as I mean, I know the Labour Party is quite hot on this. So we've received guidance. And they've taken responsibility for informing, you know, members of the Labour Party, well, and supporters, you know, who might want to go out and canvass and things like this.
WLGA published some.
That's right.
some
WLGA. Oh, there you are. I mean, that would be accessible by
useful to share that amongst the members, you know, council screen and the community councils as well. The council screen sort of referring to.
Yeah.
And just add on to that. So when we did that section, there was a handout. There's the booklet came out. That as well with all of the information. Thanks,
Page 7 on page 90. First one, undertake further succession planning activities to provide opportunities for staff to develop. And then we've got reference then in the final section to temporary support for the electoral services. Now, I don't actually think that that's succession planning. I mean, what you had to implement in terms of new processes for the electoral services was statutory guidance. You have to do it, you have no choice, did you? But I don't think in any way that could be regarded as succession planning. So I just felt, you know, there's been sort of perhaps somebody not been concentrating when they put that answer in that box opposite that particular thing.
I think the second part of that, satisfying democratic electoral service has been employed, is answering.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Point, right, the first part.
Should be sort of the other way around. Also, or it should be somewhere else.
Yeah, in terms of the succession planning for my areas, part of what we've used that temporary support to do is to free up some of the core team so that they can carry out some activities and tasks that would have been within next within the team, so that when we are looking at succession planning, they have built that experience along the way, rather than, you know, looking to apply for a role.
Right, so are they part of the electoral services team?
The core team are,
right,
and then there's some temporary staff deployed as well to help with the administration side of it. But as I say, that's been an added benefit where we've been able to look to support the core team to do some development in the electoral preparation as part of that.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. It didn't come across. It needs perhaps a little bit more explanation on that point. And then, I mean, really would come under the in the middle, so on the outcomes action delivered, it's the second one down that ties in with it as well. And then on the last point there, undertake further review of current job descriptions. That won't be complete, will it? It might be complete in terms of, you know, perhaps a deadline that was set at some point, but I would hope that you will get, there will always be an ongoing review of job descriptions. So if it says completed, it says not applicable, we should say ongoing, shouldn't we? Should have another, I think we've come across this before, haven't we?
Yeah.
We should have a ongoing line there as well. It would be actually more reassuring, I think.
It is, and I think, you know, talk about it on blown, we'll pick it up in the next meeting, but there's also what we need to understand is whether these reports are dealing with the day-to-day work. It's always ongoing and probably doesn't feature on this, you know, as a type of report. So there's something that you might not include for that reason. So, but it probably became a bigger task this year for whatever reason, which is why it's landed on here. But day to day, it just wouldn't be something that was, you know, on an action plan or service plan, I don't suspect.
But, you know, those things are in there, you know, because you're right. So the service, you know, there's all sorts of things happen that are just day-to-day stuff that we don't, you know, we talk about broadly within the objectives, but there's a lot of activity, you know, that's not recorded in the service plan. This around, you know, sort of was future proofing, sort of succession plan and stuff. It's really come about because the staff should be having legal services, and also the significant change whether around electoral services and actually what we had to do around the upcoming election. So they're in there for a specific reason. They could be. It's a refining process in there, and it's only when you actually do your MD review through this process because actually the way that's formatted doesn't actually work for some of this stuff, because what Councillor Tom said, actually in the end of the SRP, it says what it should do. Well, job description reviewed on a rolling basis. They wouldn't have ever been complete because every time something happens that somebody's job hasn't changed slightly in order to deal with.
Okay. Yeah. Just pick up 2 points really. One on the ward meetings. I thought they were excellent.
Yours was the best.
Valuable. Yeah, we did have recent hours, so I'm sure we would agree that that was the best one. I thought they were,
Tracy, wasn't it?
I thought they were excellent, and it's a shame we couldn't get more people there. It's sort of mixed bag, but you know, it was really informative for the people who were there and us as elected members as well. So, you know, I thought they went really well, and I'm pleased to see that they're continuing. And I just wanted to pick one other thing up then. So on page 96.7, review democratic reports templates and amend to incorporate climate change and decarb stuff. So that's at 0%, still at 0%, but it's supposed to have been done in June. And it's got to be completed by September. So it's is it like a quick action? There's just, or is it sort of something you're not going to?
I think when I wrote the end of year comments, it's because there was a plan in place to get it done, and then the snap election hit. It hadn't been done, if I'm honest, Chair. It is a reasonably simple thing to implement, but obviously we would look to go through the appropriate channels for this. So we've got the climate change subgroup looking at that in the next couple of months. And then obviously it would be a case of rolling it out to the appropriate committees and making sure that our officers are aware up to date on the new requirements for the report.
Okay, and just one final question, really. I don't know whether it's for resource and parents, but this service area has seen a lot of staff change and a lot of experienced staff. Leaving over the last sort of 2 years, with Gav going and then, really stepping up and then going, and then Joanne's just gone as well, very experienced member of staff. So, you've got a full complement of people. Are you able to, or are you confident that you'll be delivering the services sort of in that same way? Because I know that you've sort of replaced some of those very experienced people with more trainee type roles. Has the team lost something as a result? Are you confident that you can deliver the statutory function, etc.?
I will start, and then you can come in. I think I did mean to say this at the beginning, because obviously we've had a period of time. We've had, Gareth Price was head of service on March. Seems like he was in that role when I started. So we had that stability for the extended period of time, and obviously then Liz, went into that position. Great set of circumstances for who, but obviously back home. So yeah, we have had that situation, and we also need to remember that Mike and I have stepped up into interim roles, and obviously we need to resolve that over the coming months as well, and that's been delayed obviously again because the general elections. So we need to do, and I would say, sorry, and this is a bit I wanted to say before. I think yes, we have lost experience, but actually what we've got in place, and I don't want to sound this disrespectful to anyone who's in the roles previously, but what we've got in place today, two people who are looking at a modernised standard service as well. I think that's really important because the world has moved on massively, and I think we've seen some significant changes in the way the service is, particularly that the legal and side of it, the way that is operating. So yes, there's a challenge, but I think there's also some opportunities for that as well.
Yeah, just to add, I mean, the new managers, we've got 4 new managers. The managers in the insurance team and the planning team have both been here for a very long time. So they've learned their craft from really experienced people that worked here. The 2 other managers are newer, but very fresh. And I think the knowledge is there, but we are looking forward and just trying to sort of look at new ways of working and efficiencies, and I think it's a fresher approach. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Any other questions? One question.
This isn't going to lead to a recommendation, I don't think. Where's Livingston House?
It's on Langstone Park.
Oh right, it's down there, is it? Is it because it was mentioned that it wasn't very modern in its? Oh, I thought Langstone Park was newer than that.
No, it's the Court and Civic Centre.
Oh, that's a new house that you go.
The new one.
Right. Is it an asset of Newport? Then it's not Livingston House, presumably. Is it one of ours? We're renting it effectively, or the joint Gwent service is renting it. Right. What a pity. Just it would make a nice change to be acquiring assets, wouldn't it, in this day and age? Not that I want to forego the revenue if we need to sell something.
Yeah, we did, you know, we're an extensive search of ours under the properties before that one was identified.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it's been to be better to. We've gone through this asset rationalisation, asset optimisation.
And then we go and do something like
It's not that you've got to have the right assets in the right places as well. It's you know, whilst we're talking about asset rationalisation, but also you know, the properties to eliminate as well. So it's a challenge.
just on a general point, Chair, I've made the point previously in this meeting about being more accurate with words, and we've got on that page 91.8. This post will be advertised shortly, and it's even more confusing there. It looks as if it's as if the shortly would have been way back, probably about the end of last year. So presumably this bit of the report was written well ahead of time in anticipation of this committee meeting here today. Point 2, so the last the RAG assessment on point 2. So yeah, it says it will be, you're anticipating it being installed by February or March this year.
The trainee solicitor.
Yeah. And no, sorry. And I'm very pleased to have met 2 of our trainee solicitors at the licensing committee, and I've said that today as well.
So we've initial trainee solicitor qualified, I believe, in June and went straight into a role in our childcare team and is doing fantastically. And we had another trainee solicitor start at the beginning of July. He's very keen. It's been really positive.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the conversation about earlier on about the sort of technical professional. So I think that's the sort of approach we need to take.
Is that on a training contract then to PDL?
Yeah. And they'll do the rounds as part of and hopefully we can find a job for them at the end of it.
It's probably the best place to do a training contract in the local authority. Because,
so interesting.
Yeah, you've just got so much different areas and all you can go around. Whereas if you go into a smaller firm that has no areas of practice, you just want to get the level of experience you get here and do so.
Yes.
It's probably true to say there aren't articles in the same way that there used to be.
Yeah.
So this is great that we're able to offer something to widen those opportunities.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the committee? Sorry that she didn't get some.
Okay. About ward meetings on page 93, 10. Only really one thing on there. It says the ward meetings to support public engagement and consultation. It mentioned the budget process there, but I mean, we could be, you know, there could be other consultations, couldn't there? I mean, I've just made a proposal about taking something which might be coming up to our next ward meeting. So I mean, you know, can we actually be proposing those? In the past, you know, when we discussed the reintroduction of ward meetings after we've had such a lengthy hold up, you know, virtually 4 years hold up over COVID, you know, we were looking at specific reasons like the budget proposals, but actually there are other things that come up in wards and city-wide in the meantime, and I think it would be constructive to actually recognise the opportunities those ward meetings raise for getting the public to engage, you know, jumping on them at those ward meetings to increase the breadth of people who consultations are made available to.
The next ward meetings are September. For the performance, aren't they? End of year service plans.
Yeah, so I think something that the committee, the Public Services Committee, considered as part of the new requirements of the participation strategy was around giving residents information so that we're not always asking them for feedback on a decision we need to make. It's about also sharing information with them as a general.
You can do both, can't we?
Yeah. So I think that where the framework ended up was there would be 2 fully supported rounds per year. One would have an update on performance. So this one will be about end of year performance And then the next round would be sharing information for the budget setting process. However, both of those have space on the agenda to hold for
Good.
The interest of the ward, residents and the members. So there is that space. And of course, we can hold meetings outside of those two rounds, but they do have slightly different support arrangements.
Because of course we wouldn't, of course we've 2 successive weeks here looking at end of year reports. I really wouldn't want to subject our residents to the lengthy process that we've gone through.
Yeah, that is some of the challenges in it, trying to make it informative and useful to people,
Exactly.
but also
And
putting out
bearable.
that information.
Yeah.
So yeah, any feedback on how we could approach that would be.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry, Chris, you wanted to come in, didn't you? Sorry, Chris.
It was me just picking up on the page 94.3, the implemented election requirements Elections Act. Obviously got a mark against the brief because you implemented it. I was just what the feedback was from the PCC in the general elections, and if there's any takeaways from that you might then need to sort of slightly change things for when we have council elections and any other elections really.
Yeah, we would certainly need to give lots of data and submissions that we have to do. So we go back to the Electoral Commission, what was Department of Level and Housing and Communities, Division of Electoral Administrators. We've got our own data. We are looking to hold a lessons learned review. So we did this after the locals. We didn't get a chance to do it actually, but we will do a bit of a wash up both of those.
Straight into the general
Yeah, and
election,
then it is helpful because it gives you things that worked well, things that didn't work so well, which we will certainly look to next time. What I say would be the challenge is going to be we're going to have slightly different processes going on because the Wales and UK approaches to elections are slightly running parallel now. So where you've got the portals that you can apply for in the UK election, they don't currently work in the same way for residents in Wales. We've got slightly different postal vote systems. So I think one of the challenges, thankfully, we've got a little bit of a break, we believe, all being well. But part of that preparation time will be around how do we make sure that residents understand the requirements of the next 2 elections, which will be Wales election, Senate, and of course. But obviously, we have got support from the Electoral Commission. Try and make that clear. I did note that in some of the recent speeches in Parliament, they have been talking around some of the changes that are not aligned at the moment. So maybe we'll be in a better place at that point. Things will be running on more of the same track.
If there was a by-election so in the next 6 months to say, would we be prepared for that? But are there anything changes we need to put in place?
So by-elections are still largely running on
the council
on the old legislation, yeah. So you wouldn't need to voter ID for a by-election. The voting system would still be the same as people experienced last time. I think the challenge comes with people who've just gone through PCC in a general. Will they still be expecting that to be the same experience with the Senate and the locals, and it won't. So in some ways it doesn't matter if you turn up with a voter ID and you don't need it. It's not so much of an issue. It's just about trying to get the message really clear.
Confusing, there's a consistency though, isn't it?
It is a challenge.
Yeah. Just on that subject again, have were you actually actively approached by or was there a process for central government asking you for feedback or us as Newport for our feedback on our experiences of the elections? Are they interested?
Experience, but they have asked for information on, for example, how many people into the polling stations with the voter ID certificate,
Right.
so the ones that
Okay.
we've issued, how many people asked to have their ID.
Oh, which isn't the same as turning people away, is it? Because they were confused by the system.
Yeah.
Did they ask you that?
They've also asked for, how many
Right,
people
okay.
did we say, you can't have a ballot paper today? How many people then came back with valid ID? So they've asked for quite a raft of information.
Right.
Yes, they've asked for the data.
So they are interested in learning from that as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be better if it was all, if
It would be
it was
better.
actually coordinated and not so confusing for people. Because we'll only get managers fees, not all these. Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah. Any other questions from the committee?
Sorry, it's done it again. That's better. My connection hasn't been amazing. How are we looking for the youngsters? Because obviously with the Senate elections, it's going to be 16 plus as well, isn't it? So are we with the take it for the voter ID for those guys, for the younger ones?
So the franchise is slightly different for the Senate and the local elections. 16 to 17-year-olds are permitted to vote. So that legislation has been in place for a little while now. So we have done lots of comms and engagement. This time around, the PCC and the general elections, we focused on voter ID because that was the most major change, and then postal votes. But we would be looking to sort of pick that thread back up again and directing communication towards the young people from 14-year-olds upwards, really, and perhaps working back with the schools and education side of it again.
Okay, cool.
No, not for Wales election. Yeah.
So they don't need ID, Gav,
Oh, okay. Okay.
as they're Welsh elections and not UK. So
It's are we gonna? Do you think it's going to be pushed that way? As in, like with the for the ID for no.
I haven't seen Welsh government pick it up and remember it. So big done.
The demographic are actually used to producing ID for going in hubs and things, aren't they?
I guess there would be different experiences about across different age groups. It'd be interesting to.
I mean, you know, older people, they're sort of, you know, well, we've never had to do this before, you know.
I know that the Electoral Commission did do some research before it was introduced from groups that would be more or less affected by it.
16 struggles there with passport. Potentially.
This is where the voter ID clock is in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would expect it to come in at that point.
Yeah, so at the minute it is for you to be 18 years of age because that is the problem. But you know, potentially if it was changed, then I would be amended to.
Any other questions from the committee? Or can we wrap up the recommendations?
Discussion chair when you about the loan workers. Got. Can I just get clarification what you was asking for that? So
We should probably going to provide an
So
update on how loan working applies to members. Yeah. Okay.
and to also share the WRGA guidance to community councillors. Just general comments, Chair. Glad to see the board meetings return. Councillor Thomas's comment and PCC solicitors. Apart from those comments, was there any recommendations the committee would like to make in regards to the report?
Everything else you wanted to questions? Yeah. Perfect. Absolutely finished compared to last week.
You can tell Mike there's a load of recommendations. Like,
Yeah, we're happy for you to pass that on. Yeah. You guys can all go over the pick up the scrutiny advisory report then for us. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Lovely to meet you all on the before. Bye-bye.
So on page 109 is our actions monitoring, just listing sort of the comments recommendations that we make from Monday's meeting. We responsive at the moment from Sil as to the email address for the EcoFlex scheme. Still waiting on replies in regards to the other comments and recommendations for that. Next committee meeting will be held on the 9th of September, where we discussed in the high risk asset management plan. And then on the 30th of September, we'll have the rapid rehousing transition plan, and as we discussed earlier, on the customer experience review.
So the meeting on the 9th, I'm also going to add a general agenda item so we can look at any sort of suggestions or recommendations on these reports. And so we'll try and fix that up. it would be grateful, or I would be grateful if members could have a think about that beforehand, really, rather, and sort of, all legal on that your end, because we need your support really for that as well, don't we? So,
We've got a community thing in February, and there's always the options to add further meetings on throughout the year as well. So whatever agenda items the committee would like to suggest, we can have a word with heads of service to see if we can accommodate for it. Whether we request an information report, for example, or if we do think it should come to committee to be discussed further, we can offer any value for it. We can add it for the
sure. The Highways Asset Management Plan, the forward work programme, and the sort of review of the end of year reports, and 3 items on the agenda.
Yeah,
everybody happy with that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Can I just remind people to try and be prompt to the 30-minute pre-meeting? It makes it difficult when people arrive sort of with 10 minutes to go till the meeting, because we end sort of backtracking. So be grateful if people could try and arrive on time where diaries permit. That would be great. And that's it. Meeting closed.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye bye.